You ever put a new lock on your gate and, 2 weeks later, find a glossy brochure tacked to your mailbox inviting strangers to stroll right through your backyard? Cedar Bluff Overlook, Brook Pine Ridge Nature Experience. Yeah, that happened to me, and no, it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a takeover attempt in sneakers and hiking boots. Let me tell you how a quiet cabin in the Appalachians turned into a courtroom, a crime scene, and, believe it or not, a small triumph that tasted like thunder after a long drought. Let me back up a sec. I'm Declan Braywood, retired fire captain, spent 20 years running into burning buildings and 10 years after that pretending I liked quiet. The truth is, I'd been waiting for that quiet my whole life. The cabin sits in a cedar valley, a single dirt road in, one shaky footbridge over a creek, and pines that sound like an old choirmaster on windy nights. Perfect place to be invisible, which, after the city, felt like a religious experience. I built the gate, wired the cameras, bolted on an intercom, and the world politely stayed away, until it didn't. The first hit came soft, a polite intercom ping, a white Subaru, a woman in a purple windbreaker with a clipboard who introduced herself as Cheryl Garner, president of Brook Pine Ridge HOA, and asked, sweet as arsenic, if I'd open the gate for a scheduled trail access. I told her no, politely. Legal parcel, surveyed boundaries, private property, all the things that usually shut people up. She left a glare for the camera and drove off, but she came back with a brochure, and 30 minutes later 6 faux outdoorsy hikers came pushing through a section of fence like they'd rented the place for the weekend. I didn't yell. I recorded it. Cameras don't forget, they file and timestamp and make liars blink. I called the sheriff, uploaded the footage to the cloud, and stapled a red, weatherproof sign to the lower trail. Private forest, trespassers will be prosecuted, cameras active. That should have been the end, but people like Cheryl don't respect endings, they rewrite beginnings. Next morning, she returned with a blazered man and a woman in hiking boots carrying maps and a stack of laminated notices. This time she left a printed letter on my gate. Community resource, historical access, prescriptive use. Lawyer essay meant to sound official but lacking any county stamp or parcel number. I scanned it, sent it to my attorney Kate, and pulled out the fireproof binder, surveys, plats, deed, every scrap I'd paid a surveyor to map when I bought the place. It was all there, neat as proof on a podium. Cheryl's escalation was surgical, brochures, maps, cameras on my trees, random white SUVs idling outside at night. But it was also sloppy, which is a weird kind of mercy. The HOA started pitching community hikes routed through my land. They planted blue arrow trail markers in public areas and, more sinister, little birdhouse-style boxes nailed to trees with Brook Pine Ridge logos and pocket guides, my bluff circled with a bright red star. People looking at a friendly map don't always look twice at a fence. Then came the weird, and this is where the story twists. A kid on patrol, Marcus, showed up at my gate with hands that weren't steady and a phone that held secrets. He'd been hired by the HOA security contract, put up cameras on private posts, and recorded conversations where Crane and others talked about making access inconvenient until they sell out, and laughing about planting ideas in the community. Marcus handed the recordings over, eyes rimmed with guilt, and said, I can't be part of it. That moment, a minor, scared guy choosing the right thing, changed the whole chessboard. Recorded words are weapons. With Marcus's files and Kate's legal guidance, county inspectors started to dig. They pulled the HOA's submitted maps and found anomalies, updated topographical features that didn't exist on any historical map, metadata that screamed digital fabrication, and emails between HOA officers about prepping the parcel before the family notices. One contractor's bid for grading work had a date before any contact was made with me. Someone was building a story on top of my land and sanding off the truth. But the harassment kept coming, bolt cutters at 1:30 a.m., a crew laying concrete footings on my driveway like they were trying to pretend reality, a mailbox ripped up in the night, cameras spray painted over, a flyer slapped to the gate promising scenic access coming soon. The HOA even produced a faux county letter about emergency access concerns, bureaucratic poison meant to spook a retired fire captain into compliance. Nice try, I know the codes, I am the code. I fought like a firefighter, methodical, evidence first. Kate filed emergency motions, counterclaims, and an injunction. I upgraded the gates, got a county chief to sign an access verification memo after he drove my gravel road in an engine, and I put every timestamp drone pass, every trespass clip, every damaged fence photo into a digital press kit. The local paper ran it, blogs picked it up, and suddenly the HOA's polished brochures looked more like a cottage industry of bad faith. The real blow came when an ex-board member, the kind of person you picture with a dusty conscience, sent us internal emails showing a plan to redefine jurisdiction through presence and instructions to move fast before the property owner notices. They'd been trying to create facts on the ground, and in their arrogance they'd left fingerprints. We filed a civil suit for malicious misrepresentation, trespassing, and intentional interference with property rights, and requested an emergency restraining order to keep HOA agents away from my perimeter. Court days move like a slow march, but they're decisive, and nothing slams like recorded evidence. Kate played videos of chained-up footage, the birdhouse boxes, drone passes, the night crew caught installing footings on my dirt, and Marcus testified about the security briefings. Cheryl tried to claim tradition and community use, but when confronted with her own brochures and the contractor's bid dated weeks earlier, the veneer cracked. The judge issued an injunction, ordered markers and promotional materials removed, and moved the county to investigate possible document falsification. We won more than legal orders, we exposed a pattern. The county revoked several development permits, inspectors slapped citations on projects that crossed my boundary, and the HOA's board began to implode as residents realized their fees had been funding deception, not community upkeep. The security guards who'd tried to cut my locks faced trespass charges. The county issued a public correction to the trail narrative. It was messy, public, and satisfying. I used part of the settlement to rebuild the gate. Heavy steel, new solar panels, and for a little theater, I placed a retired fire engine right behind the fence like a day-glow guardian. Neighbors showed up, we drank coffee, traded stories, and a small community that had been sleepwalking through brochures woke up and stood with me. Marcus got a job at a local shop, stopped looking over his shoulder, and came by sometimes for a cup of coffee. No speeches, just a nod. That felt real. Here's the thing that keeps me up at night sometimes. Cheryl was the bully, sure, but she didn't act alone. A whole apparatus of people, contractors, and passive neighbors made it possible. So I'll ask you, and I want you to mean it when you answer in the comments. Who's more responsible when power gets abused? The person who pulls the trigger, or the crowd that applauds until it costs someone else their life's work? Is silence consent or fear? If you've ever been bullied by a neighborhood association, a developer, or just a person with the right stationery, tell your story below. Hit like if you believe deeds should mean something. Subscribe if you want more real-life fights where people stop being polite and start being legal, and share this with someone who thinks a brochure can trump a deed. Because at the end of the day, justice sometimes moves slow, but it moves, and every now and then, a retired fire captain gets to sit on his bluff, listen to the pines, and finally breathe.